From the primary precepts, we can use our reason to derive more specific moral rules. These are called the secondary precepts. For example, let's take the case of a euthanasia. So we can see that euthanasia violates the primary precept, protect and preserve life. So therefore, euthanasia is morally wrong. It's kind of that simple. So a euthanasia is morally wrong. That is an example of a secondary precept. So all they are is moral rules derived from the primary precepts. Reproduction, that's another primary precept. According to Aquinas, adultery, artificial means of birth control and homosexuality are all actions that conflict with this value. So we can derive secondary precepts such as adultery is morally wrong or contraception is morally wrong. Secondary precepts are different to primary precepts in several ways. Firstly, primary precepts are descriptive, right? They simply describe what our natural inclinations are. Whereas secondary precepts are prescriptive. They prescribe actions, right? So they're like commands that tell us what to do and what we can't do. Another way to put this is that primary precepts are simply a list of 5 goods, whereas secondary precepts, of which there can be loads and loads, there can be a massive long list of secondary precepts, these are in the form of moral judgments. Unlike primary precepts, which are absolute and universal, secondary precepts can be relative to time and place. So, for example, it's now possible to cure people of diseases that in the past they could have died from because we had no cure. But now we do. So we couldn't protect and preserve life in those circumstances back then, but now we have a duty to do this in certain circumstances, whereas in the past we didn't because it wasn't possible. One final thing to say about primary precepts is that we deduce from the primary precepts things that could sometimes be wrong. We sometimes derive secondary precepts that are actually incorrect, right? We can make mistakes about secondary precepts. We can't about primary precepts. They're just a list of 5 absolute things, right? That doesn't change. But we can make mistakes when we derive. Remember, we saw that Aquinas is influenced by Augustine, and Augustine says that human nature has been corrupted by original sin. So we have this desire, Aquinas thinks, to do good, but that innate desire, the syndicalistic principle, that's been corrupted by original sin. So we can just mess up and get our secondary precepts wrong.